How you doing, YouTube? Matt, Massive Beer Reviews. Back with a little bit of side-by-side hopeful goodness. New brewery time, courtesy of my boy Carson, form of Fishweir Brewing. It is their Quercus. Now, this is a barrel-aged Brett Saison. That's what we have going over here. Over here, we have a barrel-aged Brett Saison, but this one has muscadine, grapes, and plums. Yes, Carson sent these off about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and been kind of chomping at the bit. Dive into them because I love Saison, I love Brett Saison, and I like Fruit Edition Brett Saison. And you know what? They're 750s, they're old school styling, cork and cage, everything I like about it. But you know, I wanted to do a side by side. Now, the reason why is because they seem to me, at least from a distance, to be the exact same beer, just with this one with the addition of the fruit there. This one over here says 2018 edition, so we're looking at least a year old on this. This one says Series 1. I don't know how that translates as far as dating goes. I'm sure I could look it up, but you know me. I don't like to look stuff up before I have a beer. So we're going to dive into this, kind of comparing them back and forth. I'm making a lot of assumptions here, but that's what I do. So here we go. What does it say on the base bottle? It says Quercus, I'm probably butchering all that, barrel-aged Brett Saison, Lactobacillus and Saccharomyces, or Brettanomyces, sorry. Down here, they actually have all the kind of yeast and bacteria, and they have Brett and Sac kind of checked off there. Series 1, it is, let's see, this is started OG of 12.25. Everything matches, except the alcohol by volume on this one over here is just 0.4% lower. So it could be the same beer. IBUs are the same. Could be maybe the re-fermentation of the fruit kind of increased alcohol. I don't know. But over here it says fermented and stainless with farmhouse strain, aged with Brettanomyces and Chardonnay barrels. Okay. Conditioned in with white wine yeast in the bottle for carbonation. So mixed culture Saison essentially. Over here we have fermented and stainless with farmhouse strain, aged with Brettanomyces and Chardonnay barrels with noble muscadine grapes and Italian plums, conditioned with wine yeast. So they sound very similar to me. So anyway, let's dive into these suckers, see what we got. It is fall, officially fall up here. I'm doing a review outside. Can't see my breath yet, but we're getting there. It's probably low 50s out here, maybe something like that. There was frost on the ground today, but it's a beautiful day. The sun is just setting over there, and kind of in the mood for a little bit of a, Brett Belgian influenced beer. These corks and cages are bonkers tight. Like, I've never seen somebody wind these so tight. They might have been afraid maybe these were going to pop. I do not know. Fishweir, I don't know if it says Series 1, so I assume the brewery hasn't been around for a while. They just started dabbling into these kind of beers. It says part of their Live Local series. Let's see how this cork comes out. Oh, good God, I should have brought a wine opener with me. Oh, not much of a hiss whatsoever on this one over here. That's why I was like kind of concerned about, man, it's going to take me a while to get this one out. Oof. My fingers are hurting. I'm a fragile fella. A lot of times on these bottles, oh, there we go. You can actually feel the yeast kind of helping you along, or the carbonation in the beer kind of helping you along, helping you push the cork saddles, getting zero of that. Man, those were in there. My fingies hurt. Let's do the old double pour here, see what we got. Pretty much exactly what I thought they'd look like. I thought you'd have your base kind of yellowish Brett Saison over here. You're getting that rich kind of grapey plum vibes on the one on the left. They're both really pretty. Not really getting a ton of carbonation at them, but enough to where I'm not bummed, let's put it that way. I mean, they're pretty beers. Very pretty. I mean, with that sun kind of coming through the trees right there, just kind of making them pop and making them glow. I mean, over here, just Brett, Saison in general to a T. White as white could be. Head, kind of rockiness to it, no kind of creamy fluffiness to it, but it has this kind of carbonation or champagne-y kind of vibe to it. Over here, there was a head, but it dissipated really quickly. Could that be a couple different things? Low carbonation, could be those kind of fruits and grapes kind of addition, kind of knocking down the carbonation, things like that. But it definitely still has carbonation. I'm not sure if you guys can catch it, but I could still get like bits and beads of carbonation kind of spitting up from the bottom. But they look very, very pretty. I mean, Tale of Two Cities right here. It's so interesting. You think of how vibrant fruit can impart, just even color-wise, on a beer. Because with all assumptions in a basket, we're assuming this is that beer with just a fruit addition. Such a drastic difference in color. Man, I suck at swirling on this table. It really sucks. Let's get a nose. I mean, it does have all the bits and pieces that it says it has in it. I know that sounds like a little bit kind of like no shit Sherlock. You'd be surprised how many brewers don't get what they say they put into a beer on a bottle. So definitely has a bread saison vibe to it. Definitely has a Brett vibe to it. It's somewhere between a citrusy thing and a little bit of kind of just that funky kind of barnyardy, classical kind of Brett kind of tasting or kind of yeast ester. There is a Chardonnay vibe to it. It's melding a little bit with those citrus vibes, so I'm not quite sure if that citrus is coming from the Brett or a little bit from that kind of Chardonnay grape. I know it's not a citrus, but that fruitiness, it's probably a bit of both. So it smells nice, vibrant, welcoming, not overly acidic, but I feel like there's going to be a little hit, a little sharp acidity to it. Done and done. It smells like a really nice, well done, gently barrel aged, gently touched saison. Like, what's the ABV on this again? It's 6% alcohol by volume, so it's not a big beer to begin with. So a lot of times those kind of Chardonnay barrel or the Brett can sometimes get a little bit too kind of gung-ho and kind of overpower the beer. It smells equal parts, so you're getting the Brett bacteria in there, you're getting that nice soft Chardonnay barrel, and you're getting the beer in all equal parts. Let's see what this fruited portion of the show has. Oh, I didn't spill anything that time. I mean, it's really very similar to what we have going on over here. There's a slight bit of additional fruitiness, obviously, coming from those plums and those grapes, and it's probably more plummy than anything else, but it still kind of leans in that wine territory. It almost acts as if it's more of a red wine as opposed to a Chardonnay, but not like red wine, like just eking towards it, not rosé or anything like that, but just, I don't know wine enough to really talk about that, but it's coming off as just a little bit more of a richer, robust, eking towards a more darker colored wine as opposed to a lighter kind of white wine. And that's pretty much it. I mean, the Brett is probably the biggest thing that's kind of missing for me here. I'm lacking that kind of citrus. It's still more of that, it's more of that grapiness, more of that vinousness, along with a little bit of nice plumminess. And that's it. They both smell damn pretty. Let's dive into the base. Cheers. Yeah, there's a nice little pop of acidity there. Comes off nice and dry. I think you're getting a nice dryness both from the Brett and from the barrel, because there is like the oaky, subtle oaky vanilla thing going on in there, which is really cool. But then you get this nice dryness from both the yeast and the barrel itself. It is citrus leaning, and probably even more so than the Chardonnay barrel. Probably equal parts, to be perfectly honest with you. And it's nice. It's nice and kind of very distinct. Like I said, that kind of, the way that citrus came off was very close to the way the fruitiness of that vinous grape comes off, and that was kind of a very neck and neck in the nose. It's not. It's very distinct, very separated in a good way. Sometimes that kind of individual flavor thing is something I knock on beers, not necessarily getting that here. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's a little bit breezy. The wind is kicked up. It's a little bit cold. This is kind of hitting the spot for me. Very much a fall beer for me. Now, saisons are more kind of a spring, summer kind of thing for people. Saison very much a winter beer for me. Or a fall beer, I should say. This is kind of hitting the spot. And it's exactly, like I said, exactly pretty much beer, Brett, wine barrel. It's very much like that in the taste. All melded together. They're not individual flavors, but they're even, relatively even. I would say maybe the Brett is the leader in the clubhouse here. It's a Brett saison. I kind of want that to step to the forefront, but the beer is not lost to the other parts of the beer, and that Chardonnay barrel can get a little bit expressive in a lot of different beers, and with this being a low ABV beer, I was kind of fearing that, but it's definitely not getting to that point, and it just works. And I like the way that kind of woodiness and dryness with the yeast, and that's my favorite part probably. Maybe the Brett, maybe that, but it's the way that kind of yeast and that wood kind of work together with that soft vanilla vibes. Kind of delicious stuff. Let's dive into the fruited version. Very similar beers. A little bit sharper over here as far as flavor goes. Kind of follows the nose. It's not as soft, not as rounded. That fruitiness in here, definitely heavily plum leaning. And plum is a very kind of gentle fruit. unless you really kind of go hard at it and make it like the sole component of a alcohol, whether it be plum wine or something like that. I think it's a very hard flavor to kind of, it's a hard flavor to get up in the lead a lot of times, but especially when it comes to a beer, and I think it's done really well here. Sure, you're still getting that Chardonnay barrel, not nearly as robust or fatty or whatever you would say over here, not as large, even though it's not large. We're talking about a kind of a perceptional thing with this, both these being 6 and this one being a little bit 6 and change. It's a little bit more impactful over here. That vanilla thing is not really translating at all over here. Not necessarily missing it all that much, because you're kind of, it's letting the way with that barrel not being as big, with the Chardonnay character not being as big, even the Brett not being that big, lets the plum come to the top, and I think that works out really, really well. Yeah, I mean, I'm really kind of doing a disservice to the grape here. I'm sure it's impactful, and there's almost like a cherry note to it. I don't know if that kind of grape has kind of a cherry vibe to it. I'm getting soft cherry vibes on the side of that nice rich plum. Plum's one of my favorite fruits in the world, so whenever I get it in beer, it kind of makes me go a little bit gaga. So that's how this one's kind of coming off to me, but I like it. Which one do I like more? That's the question. Carbonation's not an issue over here, even though it looks like it. I don't know, man. This is a tough one. I think them both equally. It's weird because they're so similar, but they're so different at the same time. You know, it's just the way this really kind of dials in to the wood character, that wine barrel, and the Brett. And the way this one kind of dials into that plumminess. And all those other bits and pieces will still there get out of the way of that plum. Kind of just makes sense. Yeah, I like them both equally. I can't pick. Rosemary's Baby. What are you going to do? Isn't that what it is? Rosemary's Baby? Where it's just to choose? I don't know. Never seen that movie. It's no as a reference. Anyway, really tasty stuff. And I just like the low ABV factor and how gentle all the components were used and how gentle they were put forward in a beer that's not that big. So nothing kind of got like over the top, in your face, like heavy-handed, which so many brewers get wrong. It's not the case here. Really, honestly, really good stuff from a brewery I never heard of before. So yeah, tasty stuff. Thank you very much, Carson, for sending these off. Let's do it. Let's do it to it. Let's see how this baby blends together. Do our own little blending. What are we going to be left with? Is that kind of vanilla going to come up? And now that it's kind of mixed, I'll help prop that up. Is that plum going to completely disappear? Is the wine going to take over? We're going to see. Let's dive in. It's really good, actually. Yeah, I really dig that. Surprising enough, that plum's still there. It's not lost. That sharpness, that woodiness, isn't as big as it is over here, but it's bigger than it is over here. And it gets a little bit more, less dry, less sweet, less vanilla forward. Not that it was huge in the first place. When you combine that plumminess, now getting a little bit of that soft vanilla, the Brett has been tempered a little bit. It's not as dry, not as forward either, but it's still there. Everything almost like, this had a couple things that were a little bit higher and lower as far as volume, but it's still really well balanced. Same thing over here. Stuff has been dropped out. The volume is raised. It's kind of brought them all kind of together. But the craziest part is that plum. I thought it was really going to disappear when we do the old cuvee, and that is not the case. This is really good stuff. It might be my favorite version of both of them. I mean, this is a fun thing to do with any beer. Some people look at like kind of just blending beers as like a blasphemy, but it's always fun, especially if you've really gone into a beer and tried them, and really kind of sat down and enjoyed the beer first, then kind of blend them together. Just don't mash it together for the sake of whatever. Actually, do whatever you want. It's your beer. That's how it rolls. But yeah, really fun stuff. Yeah, Fishweir. I will have to get more of these guys. Jacksonville, Florida. And like I said, track down a date on this. I'm sure you guys will let me know. But I'll look it up after this review and see what's what. And that was a really fun side-by-side. Thank you very much, Carson. I know he knows that I like these kind of beers, and it's cool to see something come out of Florida that isn't a pastry stout, a Florida Weiss, or a hazy. Not that they're not done. I mean, you have, Barrel Monks down there. You have, Cigar City does a bunch of stuff like that. You have a lot of breweries that do these kind of beers, but that's not what Florida is known for in the whole beer world. So when you have something like this, Odd Breeds down there, a whole bunch of other breweries that are doing great stuff outside of those kind of beers, but it's nice to see breweries kind of dive into those and do a really, really fucking bang-up job of it. Yeah, really good stuff. Thank you very much, Carson. So let's talk about it. These some of the better barrel-aged Saison I've had it as of late. They're in the conversation. They're not King Shit or Fuck Mountain. They're not Mount Rushmore. There's ones that have done a little bit better for me, but they're damn tasty stuff and worthy of picking up if you find yourself out and about or you have the opportunity to pick some up. Value and availability, I have no idea about these guys. A perfect world, 750 wine barrel aged Saison, 6%. I would hope it's right around $16 a bottle, but that's me. It's probably a little bit more, but that's where I would like them to sit. And leave you with, if you like what we like these, if you like wine barrel aged Saison, if you like Brett beers, if you like plums, and if you just like yeast driven good beers, because that's essentially what you have going on here, is well made yeast driven beers. And I think that's a pretty damn good thing. So there you go. Another review in the books. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Down there if you want to talk about it. Massive Beers if you want to check me out through the social media stuff. Beer Massive if you want to check me out through the whole podcasting thing. And hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. Hopefully enjoying a little bit of barrel aged Saison right now. Hope we'll see you next time. Cheers.